The silence within. Juan always thought life would give him signs, clear, loud, obvious signs that would tell him which path to follow. But life, it seemed, preferred silence. He spent months waking up without purpose, scrolling through social media, comparing his life to people he didn't know. His dreams felt distant. His energy was low. The mirror reflected not just his face, but the weight of his unfulfilled potential. He didn't hate his life, he feared that this was all it would ever be. No excitement. No growth. No meaning. He heard the same phrase again and again in his head. Maybe I'm not meant for more. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered, you are. You just haven't started. One night, while walking alone under the city lights, something shifted. He saw a man sleeping on the sidewalk, hugging a backpack like it held his soul. That man had nothing, yet something about his peaceful face shook Juan to the core. Juan went home and asked himself a dangerous question. What am I doing with my life? Part 2, The Awakening. El cambio comienza. Juan sat in silence for hours, staring at the ceiling. The world outside moved quickly, but inside him, time had stopped. Something had to change, not just outside, but within. He couldn't keep waiting for motivation to appear. He had to create it himself. One morning, he wrote a single sentence in a notebook. What if I never give up? That line became his new mantra. Every time he felt tired, frustrated, or lost, he looked at those words. He started waking up early. Not because he was a morning person, but because the silence of the early hours gave him clarity. He began reading, watching motivational videos, and writing down his thoughts. It wasn't easy. Some mornings, he didn't want to get out of bed. But he reminded himself that discipline would take him further than motivation. Juan also changed his environment. He cleaned his room, removed distractions, and created a vision board filled with images of the life he wanted. Success. Peace. Purpose. That board reminded him daily that his dream was real, but it needed action. His friend Andres noticed the difference. You've changed, he said one day. Juan smiled. I've started believing in myself. It wasn't a perfect transformation. Juan still had doubts. He still failed sometimes. But every failure became a lesson. He learned that consistency mattered more than intensity. He didn't need to run fast, he just needed to keep moving forward. He stopped comparing himself to others. Everyone has their own race. What mattered most was being 1% better every day. One night, Juan recorded a short video on his phone. Just his face, a quiet background, and his voice. If you feel lost, that's okay. I felt lost too. But you're not broken. You're just discovering your path. Don't give up. The world needs your story. He didn't expect anyone to see it. But someone did. And then another. And another. Without knowing it, Juan's journey had started to inspire others. The echo of impact. Juan began to receive messages. Not hundreds, just a few. But they mattered. One person said, your words helped me get out of bed today. Another wrote, thank you. I felt alone until I heard your story. Each message felt like a spark. Not for fame, but for purpose. Juan kept creating. He wasn't an influencer. He was just a man sharing real moments. He spoke about self-doubt, discipline, dreams, and failure. He showed his messy desk, his tired eyes, his late nights editing videos after work. He didn't pretend to have it all figured out. That's what made people listen. One day, a teacher from another country asked if she could show Juan's video to her class. Your story reminds my students that success isn't about perfection. It's about trying. Juan cried that night. Not from sadness, but from understanding. His pain had turned into power. His silence had become someone else's hope. And in that moment, Juan finally understood the truth. You don't need millions of followers to change the world. You just need the courage to tell your story. The climb continues. Juan thought he had reached something like stability, a peaceful routine, a clearer vision, a few followers who truly connected with his message. But as he learned, growth never ends. The mountain has no final peak. Just when you think you've made it, life reminds you there's more to climb. He began to feel a new kind of pressure. Not from others, but from within. His videos were getting attention. People were waiting for his next message. The boy who once struggled to get out of bed was now being called an inspiration. That word, inspiration, felt heavy on his shoulders. He wondered, who am I to inspire anyone? He wasn't perfect. He still had bad days. He still made mistakes. Some nights, the doubt returned like a fog, whispering, you're just pretending. But Juan had learned how to talk back to that voice. He reminded himself, authenticity is more powerful than perfection. So, he opened up even more. He started sharing his failures, his fears, the days when he didn't feel strong. And to his surprise, those were the videos people connected with most. They didn't want a superhero. They wanted someone human. One message came from a teenager in a small town. "I've never seen someone talk like you. It makes me believe I can change, too." That message stayed with Juan. It became his new fire. He began setting bigger goals. He created a podcast where he interviewed people who had overcome adversity, people with no fame, but incredible resilience. He collaborated with artists and writers who had once been invisible. Together, they built something real. Something that wasn't about trends, but truth. But the climb had its storms. Juan faced online criticism, burnout, and even betrayal from someone he trusted. There were weeks when he wanted to quit. Times when the screen stayed blank because the words wouldn't come. And yet, he didn't stop. He remembered his mantra, "What if I never give up?" So he rested. He reconnected with nature. He traveled to quiet places and listened to silence again. In that space, he found new stories to tell. His message matured. It wasn't just about motivation anymore. It was about transformation, legacy, and courage. He spoke of building something that could outlive us all, kindness, hope, and the belief that one voice can start a ripple. Andres, his old friend, joined him in some of the projects. They visited schools and community centers, speaking to students and parents. They didn't promise magic formulas, just honesty and tools that had worked for them. One day, during a live event, Juan looked into the crowd and saw hundreds of eyes looking back, not with admiration, but connection. He realized he wasn't speaking to people anymore. He was speaking with them. He paused, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm not here because I'm special. I'm here because I chose not to stay silent. And so can you." The applause was thunderous, but more than that, the silence after was sacred. A moment of realization. A shift in the room. Juan smiled. He wasn't climbing alone anymore. The journey continued. The ripple effect. Months passed, and Juan's message began reaching places he never imagined: small villages in South America, classrooms in the United States, shelters in Europe. Strangers wrote to him from all corners of the world, sharing how his words had touched their darkest hours. But Juan had changed too. He was no longer only a speaker or content creator. He had become a bridge between pain and possibility, between silence and storytelling. One morning, while journaling by the window, he asked himself, "What if I helped others tell their story, too?" That single thought sparked a powerful new chapter. He launched a free storytelling program online. Not for influencers, but for people who felt invisible. The homeless. The abused. The forgotten. The unheard. Juan believed every voice mattered, and that when people told their truth, healing began. Andres helped him build the project. They called it Echoes of Strength. Each week, they'd meet online with a group of 10 people, guiding them to write, record, or draw their life journey. No filters. No edits. Just truth. At first, it was raw. Painful. Some couldn't even speak without breaking down. But over time, something incredible happened. Those tears became courage. Those voices became power. One woman, who had survived domestic abuse, wrote, "This is the first time I feel like I exist." A former inmate shared, "I thought my story ended in prison. Now I know it's just the middle." These weren't just testimonials. They were revolutions. Juan's channel became a platform for these stories. He stopped being the main character and became the narrator of a chorus. Each video, each post, was a celebration of human resilience. He was also invited to speak at global conferences, not as a celebrity, but as a witness. Someone who had walked the path from isolation to inspiration. In one of these events, after his talk, a 12-year-old boy approached him. He didn't say anything, just handed Juan a drawing. It showed a mountain, a storm, and a boy climbing with others behind him. Juan's eyes watered. No words were needed. Later that night, he stared at the drawing and realized, this is the ripple. His journey, once born from silence and fear, was now inspiring others to rise. And those people would lift others. And so on. Like drops in water creating endless circles. He whispered to himself, "I don't need millions to know I made an impact. Just one person. One story. One light." The next morning, he returned to the camera. He smiled. He pressed record. And he began. "Today's story isn't mine. It's yours.